Hello and welcome to the Sub 1 YouTube channel. My name is Ray, and in this video we're continuing on with the electrical build part of the Microsmt version 3 pick and place machine. Okay, so since the last video I did weld up this plate, got a wire sitting there, and mount the circuit board to it. So this is the main controller board. Something I hadn't noticed when I was unpacking is it was actually designed by Microsmt and is not a generic board. So before we continue too far, I have shortened down these drag chains, cable drag chains. They don't need to be as long as they were. I combined the leftovers of the two chains after I've shortened them down, and this is what I had left. So they came as 1 meter lengths, and it causes the machine to push those drag chain extra bits out past the edges of the machine. So this will travel all the way in both axes. Alright, so let's keep going on. We've got a few limit switches to install. So I can only see where one of these optical sensors, this is a photo beam, and it gets mounted up here. And there was 2 supplied in the pack. I haven't figured out where the second one goes, if at all. And he supplied 4 of these micro switches. These are a limit switch. One gets mounted here, and the other one down the front over here. And there's 2 left. Again, I don't know where they go. So let's get these installed anyway. And there are 2 small holes formed into this print. I'm just having trouble accessing the head of this, or getting this screw started in that hole. What I might have to do is take this top portion of the assembly off. That came off easier than I thought. Now this can be adjusted up and down slightly to get our center position. So when our z-axis is, the 2 z points are level. Now on the z-axis itself, on this head, we've got the 2 solenoids. Now what I've done is I've cut some 25mm long bits of the M6, I think it is, or the 6mm airline that was supplied. Using my hot air gun, I heated up the end and pushed it on. I did the same for the second one, and then I've used slightly longer pieces, around 65mm long each, and I've put 2 65mm pieces on, again using the hot air. For down at the pump, there is a clear tube that was supplied. I think this is 8mm from memory. Yeah, 8mm OD, 5mm ID. I was able to just push that on without too much hassle. He supplied way more than what we need for this job. Seems to be a theme, and I'm not going to complain about it. I think it's actually good. You've got spare parts. So he supplied a little over 300mm of that hose. So what I'm going to do now is grab a Y piece. So this is a Y joiner, and that just clicks onto the end there. Make sure it's fully seated on both. Then we're going to get the two 4mm to 6mm reducers, and they push onto these two. Again, make sure they're fully seated. And he supplied, I think it was 800mm of this orange. I've cut it down to, I'll get my bigger ruler out, 255mm. So I've cut two 255mm lengths, and I've got this one which measures, this is my leftover, 295mm. So I've got enough to make another one if I need it. I poke into the 4mm ends. Make sure they're all the way home. There will be some resistance before it reaches the home, and that's actually an O-ring inside sealing up. So these can now turn. There is a free spinning coupling in here that allows the stepper below to turn without twisting up our hose. Let's start running some hoses and wires. So there's a fair length of this blue hose. This is the 6mm hose. I think it is stamped on it somewhere. Six by 4mm, so the inside diameter will be 4mm. So let's start feeding that in. Before I do that, there is actually a hole I need to put in here. Now, the reason for the hole I've just put in here is there is a pair of wires that run down to the limit I installed on the end here. Let's get this fed in. Okay, that's looking good. So let's start running some of our wires in. That's our wire that goes to this one. We'll come back to that. This is our X-min. Now he's been good to label each of the wires on the plug end. But I've been printing out heat shrink labels. These will shrink down when I heat them up. Now in his instructions he has shown putting all of these in one go. I'm going to run them one at a time. This is the one that pokes down through here. More than enough length to get anywhere inside this machine. And it goes onto one of these connections. There is a diagram that shows what every plug is for, and when we get to it we'll do them as well. With this one we'll just run down and across somewhere, and I'll solder that on. I'm probably going to end up shortening this wire. One of the things I did do, and you can't see it hidden in underneath all of these, I'll just undo this tape. There was a lengths of wire coming off the switch, the main power switch, that go to the power supply. I did put what I call ferrules onto the ends, and I did the same for the DC power. So this is the wire for the 24 volt DC, which connects up to here, and you can see there's the little bits on the end. These are 1mm ferrules, so this is a 1mm wire, and the ones coming from the switch were 0.75. So let's just hook those up and get them out of the way for now. They go into the power supply, or into the controller board on those two terminals. I use ferrules to keep the strands together so that they're all working to conduct the current. If you're using bare wire and you put them under a screw clamp or something along those lines, sometimes one or two strands will be clamped and the rest won't be helping at all, and that'll cause that joint to heat up. So to avoid that, I use the ferrule, and that way you're clamping the whole lot in one go. Alright, so let's get some of the other wires in to go in this gantry. And two-stepper and one-stepper. Now I'm thinking this is our N1 stepper and N2 over here. I'm glad these have got the plugs on the end because I don't fancy doing those ones up. Go through the top here first. Now I'm going to use some small cable ties to keep this tied to the tube. This all moves, so if I keep it supported by the tube, the 4mm tube, that'll help stop bending and getting in the way later. Now this is the second one. Right, so we have the two solenoid valves. This is for valve 2. This is for valve 1. This is our N1 valve. I'm going to poke the wire up through here. And that just plugs in. Now this is where I was a little bit concerned about what I was going to do with my cabling. Because there's a fair bit of wire on these relative to what we need, and then I thought I'll just run out with the blue hose and tie this back to the blue hose. And I can probably tie all my wires here to the blue hose. I have got to run a wire for this yet. Let's get the other one sorted. I've got a label for it as well. Okay, next one to run in is our Z-Min. That's this photo sensor here. And there's a Z axis. Y, X, Z. Stepper motor Z. I think that's all the wires that go into that section. Actually looks pretty good. Alright, so we've got the X-axis stepper. So that's this one. You're going to need to solder up a few wires now. So for that, I'm going to have to pull this forward a bit. Okay, so there's still a stepper motor to run the cable for. It'll be this one. This is the Y-axis stepper. Now I've got to figure out how I'm going to manage that particular cable. Not quite sure what I'm going to do there with cable management for that one. I might have to make up some brackets to go into the track. And I've got my Y-axis limit. And that needs to be soldered on too. So on those limit switches, it needs to be between the normally closed and the common, which is the outer two terminals. The order in which these wires go on those terminals is really not important. Might have to shorten this one down later when I figure out my cable management. Okay, so I'll leave that for the moment and we'll get our next set of wires soldered on. And that's our pump. I think that's all the soldering. Okay, so next step will be, I haven't run the wires for the camera. There's a camera up here and an LED. Alright, so I'll have to run those next. I'll find those cables. Okay, so I made one little error here. I forgot to put in the wires for the LED on the top camera and the cable for the camera itself. So let's get that sorted and get that in. And I had all these cable tied so nicely too. I just bumped the camera. Might be easy to drop the LED block off. Okay, that's in. Now I dropped one of those little tiny screws and I don't know where it went. But from memory there are some spares floating around, so I'll grab one of those. Alright, let's figure out how I'm going to tie these together. So these are the two wires. Alright, so that's all of those cables in there. So the air line will come across over this way and connect into this pipe. And there is a connector for that. And it was here a few minutes ago. I know it was supplied, I've ticked it off and everything, so I'll find that and I'll put that on shortly. All these wires, however, over on this side, come up to here and they will be connected into here along with this one. So this is our Y-axis motor and it will plug into this one here. Right, so this is the X-axis, and X-axis goes on the end. This one is our Z-axis and it plugs in here. This is our N1, which goes in here. Here's our N2. So this one's labelled valve 1. Which is this one. Top LED is this plug here. I will have to strip these wires a little bit. So this one here is from the pump. Now I made the yellow wire the positive and the green wire the negative. Now I've got this one. This is a relatively short wire and it's labelled bottom LED. So there is an LED plug here, and bring it round and put it into here. Okay, so this one is our X min. And X min goes on the end here. This is valve 2. Valve 2 goes in here. And the positive is towards me. This one's our Z-min. Z-min is this one. And that only leaves our Y-min. There's that adapter. So this goes to the, I think it's 8 to 6 mil hose. So I'm going to trim this back here and then trim the other hose to go into it around the same place. I will have to do something about all this excess cable at some stage. I'll do that as part of my cleaning up and looming. Now we get to hide the mess. And this is the last panel. Now I'm probably going to have to, I am going to have to adjust the flag for the limit. It is moved over while I've been working. And I can see this being very fiddly to adjust. Okay, so I've still got to attach this fiducial for the calibration on here. Hasn't actually said how to do that. I'm going to assume it's glued on with something like a super glue. I've also got to move it to where I can connect it to a computer and then I can power it up. I've got to connect USB to this and a USB cable to the controller board. I believe that the controller board and one of the cameras get connected to a USB hub. And he did actually supply a USB hub in this, along with the 2 USB cables that are required. Here's one of the USB cables and the USB hub. And I'll have to find some way of mounting that as well. So I'll get those connected. I've also got to... this is the one that connects to the hub. There is one down here. It's recommended it connects to the computer direct. Don't put two cameras on the same hub. The bandwidth is not high enough. I'd like to tidy the wires up a bit more on here and hide some of the wires inside some of the framework, maybe shorten some of them and bring them all up together. The next major video I'll do is construction of a feeder for the components. To see when that video comes out, don't forget to click on like, subscribe and ring that notification bell. It's also a form of support that helps the channel a great deal and costs you absolutely nothing. If you'd like to support the channel further, I also have Patreon and YouTube membership, and you can join my VIP patrons GoLucky and Jeff Jerde, and my Builder patrons Al Morales45, Andrew Cardone, Airgar69 and James Kelly in helping to support the channel. If you've got any questions, I do have a Discord channel. There will be a link in the description. You can either ask your question below or drop into the Discord and ask your question there. And if I can't answer it, someone else in the Discord might be able to. And we'll see you in the next video.